The Chicago boys lifted nearly all restrictions on foreign direct investment, creating an almost irresistible package of guarantees for the foreign investor with extraordinarily permissive treatment. Foreign investment and loans came pouring into Chile, with loans alone tripling between 77 and 81. Of the 507 state enterprises set up before or during Allende's presidency, the Chicago boys would eliminate or privatize all but 27. This recovery only got an economy back to where it was before. Much of Chile's growth was artificial or fictitious. Between 1977 and 1981, 80% of Chile's growth was in the unproductive sectors of the economy, like marketing and financial services. Much of this was speculation that was attracted to Chile's phenomenally high interest rates, which at 51% in 1977 were the highest in the world. Chile's integration into the world market would leave it vulnerable to world market forces. The international recession that struck Chile in 1982 hit them especially hard, harder than any other Latin American country. Not only did foreign capital and markets dry up, but Chile had to pay out stratospheric interest rates on its orgy of loans. By 1983, Chile's economy was devastated, unemployment soaring at one point to 34.6%. Far worse than the U.S. Great Depression. Manufacturing production plunged 28%. The country's biggest financial groups were in free fall and would have collapsed completely without a massive bailout by the state. The Chicago boys resisted this measure until the situation became so critical they could not avoid the bailout. These costs were passed on to the taxpayers. It's interesting to note that when the economy was booming, profitable firms were privatized. When those firms failed, the costs of bailing them out were socialized. In both cases, the rich were served. Sound familiar? This is classic Friedman economics. This is classic Republican free market ideology at work. This is what they want to bring you. This is what you will be hiring them to do to you. Shock and awe here. So there's real-world evidence for, when these Chicago boys go to work with their free market economy and their privatization schemes and their austerity programs where you cut government spending to the bone and you don't invest in your people and you don't invest in infrastructure and you break up labor unions and you allow for oligarchies and foreign investment to come pouring into your country. There's total real-world evidence that this does not work. There's total real-world evidence that their free market economy, their laboratory, which was Chile, failed the people so miserably. And now, when you describe the positions that the people on the right who would ask for you to hire them this year to do what they did to Chile, to do it here, which is their entire program. It's the same old crap. We're not going to print money. We're not going to invest in our people. We're going to cut government spending to the bone. We're going to allow an economic system that allows foreign money to come flowing in here. We like foreign investment. It's good for America. Outsourcing of jobs couldn't possibly hurt. Unions are bad. We've got to actually do austerity programs. We can't keep on spending. We can't have social safety nets. We can't give food stamps. We can't give unemployment. We can't have minimum wage. That was all done in Chile under Pinochet. And the only reason why they were able to do it in Chile was because they put Pinochet there to disappear people who would disagree with them. So what was the record? Well, between 1972 and 1987, when the Chicago School of Economics was running their economic plan, the same one that they're offering you today, the per capita gross national product fell 6.4%. Over the whole period, they lost 6.4% of gross domestic product, gross national product. Social Security to this day in Chile is privatized. But what happened to labor in Chile? Well, wages continued to fall. The standard of living for workers crumbled. The average worker was worse off in 1989 than in 1970, just like you're worse off now than you were 10 years ago. Labor's share of national income fell from 52% to 30%. Wages continued to fall during the little boom period that they have. Poverty rate soared to 41%, one-third indigent or desperately poor. Shanty towns grew around the major cities like Santiago. Soup kitchens popped up. The poorest 40% of the population was eating the worst diet. They had, gone from 2,000 calories a day to 16,000 calories a day. Chileans without adequate housing went from 27 to 40% between 72 and 88. But the wealthy were raking it in. The richest 20% of society enlarged their share of the pie at everyone else's expense. And the numbers are stunning. The richest share, they took 46% of the wealth. Here, the top 20, 84% of the wealth. Unbelievable things got in Chile, where they went from 10%. They started with about 9.6% unemployment, just like here. They ended up with almost 50% unemployment. Everybody, and the richest 20% got bizarrely rich. You only had 2 paper companies, 2 chemical companies, 2 wine and beverage companies. Okay, that's what they did. And I keep telling you, they're not going to be happy here until you have one company doing, all your communications. One company doing the internet. One company doing, car servicing. One company doing whatever. One company educating your kids. Seriously. How did they do it? How did such inequality? It was part of an intentional policy that goes hand in hand with the free market ideology that these people claim that works. It's an intentional policy to keep unemployment as high as possible. Yes, it's part of an intentional policy. It's part of the free market system that creates the oligarchy, that creates these rapidly formed privatized service providers in every sector. And so intentional unemployment, widespread unemployment, has the effect of driving down wages. And so unemployed workers compete for a very limited number of jobs. They will accept sub-poverty wages, which is why they are out there talking about what bullcrap the minimum wage is. They can't do that here yet. Unless you elect these people, unless you actually hire these people who are anti-minimum wage, who will come in here and will force you to compete against even more people who will be thrown out of work, especially if you do away with firefighters and public school teachers and publicly paid EMTs and publicly paid 9/11 operators. If they start privatizing the way they want to, more people will be out of work, and so more people will be competing with you for the few jobs that there are. And if they get their way and they do away with the minimum wage, then they can exploit you like crazy. You will have to take sub-poverty wages to get any job. The promoters of the free market either forget or exploit the fact that the labor market is like any other market. It's dictated by supply and demand. And if you want to see how it works, just imagine a country where the supply of workers perfectly matches the employer's demand for them and everyone gets paid $10 an hour. If you add a few more workers to that economy, Paul Krugman explained it. He said the way that a freely functioning labor market ensures that almost everyone who wants a job gets one is by allowing wage rates to fall. They want to do away with the minimum wage. This is their new thing. And the more unemployed workers that you add to this economy, the more wages fall. 1982, we had a recession, and unemployment, when Reagan was president, unemployment was about 11% in the fourth quarter. Real hourly wages fell 50 cents from the 3 years before.